Nearly 20 years have passed by since one of the most gut-wrenching and heartbreaking incidents in wrestling history took place one fateful evening in Kansas City. No one that either directly or vicariously lived through the night of Owen Hart's tragic death will ever forget how they felt when they received the grim news. By all accounts, Owen was a charming, hard-working individual, a consummate professional, a skillful prankster, and a devoted and loving family man, and a good brother in the truest sense of the term. Wrestling fans may have only known Owen as a performer, colourful and exceedingly proficient, but through countless stories and anecdotes, we came to truly appreciate Owen Hart the man as well. I'm Jack from Cultaholic.com, and this is the captivating career of Owen Hart. After graduating high school in the spring of 1983, Owen travelled with brother Ross to Europe, but unlike his older brother, the 18-year-old was just looking to enjoy the change of scenery and actually had no intentions of wrestling. He'd wrestled twice previously under a mask for two forgettable Stampede shows off the beaten path, and while in Germany, found himself getting coaxed into the ring to help fill the roster out. Though he was an apparent natural from the onset, Owen originally didn't have the same interest in pursuing wrestling as his older brothers did. He clearly had the aptitude for it, however, and would eventually revisit that road. In the meantime, Owen attended the University of Calgary, where he wrestled at the amateur level. In '86, Owen placed second in the Canadian Amateur Nationals in the 177-pound division, but the university shut down its wrestling program after that year. Weeks after the program's closure, Owen made his on-the-books wrestling debut for Stampede Wrestling, where he became an immediate sensation. In August of '86, Owen captured his first title, winning Stampede's International Tag Team Championships with then-brother-in-law Ben Basarab. The two dropped the belts a couple of months later, but Owen wasn't without gold for long. He defeated Les Thornton for Stampede's British Commonwealth mid-heavyweight title that October and held it for nearly 10 months. While still holding the title, Owen also twice held Stampede's North American Championship, trading that belt with the monstrous Mockin Singh, the latter reign lasting for over a year. Owen's skill and timing made him indispensable for Father Stu's Stampede promotion, but others saw his obvious value. In fact, he worked a few live events for WWE in 1986, and one night in Denver that September, he teamed with SD Jones to wrestle brother Brett and in-law Jim Neidhart. For that match, Owen went by the name Owen James to hide the family connection. Owen also debuted for New Japan in August '87, wrestling the likes of Kaiji Muto, Tatsumi Fujinami, and Keiichi Yamada, the future Jushin Thunder Liger. Going into 1988, Owen continued splitting his time between Stampede and New Japan, as well as getting a better look from WWE in tryout matches. That May, Owen became the first non-Japanese wrestler to capture the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, where he defeated former Stampede rival Hiroshi Hayes in Sendai. During his 4-week reign, Owen successfully defended the title belt against the future Liger in Hiroshima. And although the reign lasted just a shade under 1 month before dropping the gold to Shiro Koshinaka, just having that reign demonstrated how valuable the 23-year-old prodigy was in the eyes of wrestling's top power brokers. Weeks after that particular New Japan tour, Owen began working WWE live events under a mask as the Blue Angel. The belief was that Owen needed a mask to stand out in the brawnier WWE landscape of that time. By the TV tapings in August, his name was henceforth changed to the Blue Blazer, and he burst onto the WWE scene as a fan-friendly superhero. But big victories were hard to come by for the Blue Blazer, as Owen was only really put over by the likes of Barry Horowitz, Danny Davis, and Steve Lombardi. As the Blue Blazer, Owen made his debut at the '88 Survivor Series, where he dubiously injured his groin on a leapfrog spot gone awry. After a month away to recover, Owen returned and put over the likes of Akeem, Greg Valentine, and Mr. Perfect. A short but swift match with Perfect followed at WrestleMania 5 and was one of the highlights in this era, as was another quick bout against Ted DiBiase on Saturday night's main event. But victories had become scarce, and Owen lamented being little more than a hooded job guy. After consulting with brother Brett, Owen made the decision to try his luck elsewhere and left WWE in the June of 1989. Owen's first stop post-WWE was his old promotion, the ailing Stampede, which was only months away from closing its doors. Over the course of his first few weeks back, Owen battled Dynamite Kid in a series of street fights while unsuccessfully challenging Larry Cameron for the North American title. He'd also reopened ties with New Japan, competing in a January 1990 tournament to determine a #1 contender for the junior heavyweight title he'd once held. A summer 1990 excursion to Austria's Catch Wrestling Association continued to demonstrate Hart's innate wrestling ability, and he enjoyed matches there there with Fit Finlay, Akira Nagami, and Luke Rambo Poirier. In March 91, Owen made his debut in a place that some don't realise that he ever worked for, WCW. His first match was a victory over Rip Rogers on the old Power Hour television show, but ultimately, he only spent 1 month in the company. During that time, Hart teamed with fellow Stampede alum Brian Pillman at a number of house shows, and at one card in Missouri, it was a bigger Stampede reunion, as the duo teamed with Junkyard Dog to defeat Dan Spivey and the Freebirds. It was back to New Japan in April, where his match card was filled with the likes of Finlay, Liger, Too Cold Scorpio, and Chris Pegasus Kid Benoit. After one last run in Germany that November, Owen was back full-time with WWE and found himself in the company of his own family. While Bret Hart and Davey Boy Smith resided as single stars in the upper mid-card, Owen, now nicknamed The Rocket, teamed with Jim the Anvil Neidhart to form the New Foundation. The duo's baggy pants were part pajamas and part MC Hammer, and to be honest, they looked downright comfortable. Their potential as a Hart Foundation offshoot looked ambitiously high after an impressive showing against the Orient Express at the '92 Royal Rumble, and in that match it was Owen who looked especially nimble and fleet-footed. Unfortunately, Jim Neidhart was fired the following month, leaving Owen somewhat in the lurch. While Owen did get to defeat Skinner in a short match at WrestleMania 8 in Indianapolis, he was soon again placed in another tag team, one brother Bret notes that Owen wasn't too happy with: High Energy. This was alongside undercard mainstay Coco Beware, and if nothing else, the partnership did spawn theme music that sounded like INXS's Suicide Blonde, which Owen would use for more than 5 years after. High Energy split in the early months of '93, and Owen went solo while Coco finished up with the company. A brief singles push in the spring ended quickly when Owen injured his knee working with Bam Bam Bigelow, which again sidelined him for a little while. That summer, Owen was drafted into Bret's war with Jerry Lawler after the King began degrading the entire Hart family at every turn. This led to Owen and Bret, as well as other WWE stars, travelling to Lawler's USWA for infrequent matches, and Owen even held the USWA title in the June of 1993. He would lose it to Lawler weeks later, but the feud waged on in Memphis, and in the weeks before SummerSlam '93, Owen and Bret battled Lawler and Jeff Jarrett in matches at the Mid-South Coliseum, with the Harts playing the outsider heels. Owen, along with older brother Bruce, was present at SummerSlam when Bret tortured the King in an excessively long sharpshooter, the youngest Hart sibling becoming more proximally associated with the top stars in the company. Come Survivor Series, Owen teamed with Bret and retired brothers Bruce and Keith in a family feud match against Shawn Michaels, who was filling in for Jerry Lawler, and 3 masked knights. The Harts dominated the match, with Owen looking every bit as strong as his former world champion brother Bret, and just when it seemed as though the Harts were going to sweep the occasion, a miscue led to Owen being eliminated. When Michaels took a count-out loss minutes later, a peeved Owen angrily confronted Bret, upset that he was the only one who did not survive the match for his team. Tensions would mount for a time, with Owen challenging Bret to a match before cooler heads seemed to prevail. The two put aside their differences to face the Quebecers for the tag titles at the '94 Royal Rumble, only to lose via stoppage due to Bret injuring his knee. Owen, irate that Bret didn't tag out, kicked Bret's wounded limb out from under him to spell out his official heel turn. After initially turning down Owen's challengers, a stern hitman accepted a match for WrestleMania 10 against his younger brother. In what may be the greatest opening match in WrestleMania's long history, Bret and Owen churned out an utter classic, with scheming Owen equaling virtuous Bret's every move and counter move. In the end, it was Owen forever shedding any undercard label he may have previously worn, pinning Bret cleanly with a victory roll counter. Owen's new mean streak spelled itself out in TV matches where he demonstrated a willingness to injure others, as was the case with Mo of Men on a Mission on one episode of Wrestling Challenge. In one night, Owen defeated Tatanka, the 1-2-3 Kid, and Razor Ramon to become the 1994 King of the Ring. In that final match, Owen, who began calling himself the King of Hearts, used an assist from a returning Jim Neidhart, who also had a contentious bone to pick with Bret. Owen had already proved that he could beat Bret once at WrestleMania 10 and had matched him by becoming the King of the Ring as well, and it was the world title that lay next in Owen's sights. Owen got his match at the '94 SummerSlam, battling Bret for the WWE Championship inside a steel cage, with parents Stu and Helen, along with various siblings and in-laws, seated together in the audience. For over half an hour, Owen and Bret exchanged spirited escape attempts and brilliant wrestling before the elder brother beat Owen in the race down the cage wall. Neidhart got involved in the aftermath, helping Owen assault Bret while warding off the Hart brothers, before returning Davey Boy Smith made the save for the Hitman. For months afterwards, Owen chased Bret's gold to no avail, but he did help Bob Backlund get the belt off Bret at Survivor Series after tearfully conning Mother Helen into throwing the towel in on injured Bret's behalf. A vengeful Bret pummeled Owen in a series of no-holds-barred matches throughout early 1995, decisively ending the feud. For WrestleMania 11, Owen was bringing a mystery partner to the event in order to challenge for the Smoking Guns Tag Team Gold, and that partner partner was none other than the mighty Yokozuna, fresh from 4 months away from the ring. Owen pinned Billy Gunn after a Yokozuna banzai drop, giving Owen his first title in the company. And the sight of an elated Owen jumping up and down with both belts while most of the adults in the Hartford crowd cheered is a truly underrated WrestleMania moment. For nearly 6 months, Owen and Yokozuna ruled over the tag team division, fending off the Guns, the Allied Powers, and Razor Ramon and Savio Vega. The two dropped the gold to the Guns in September of that year, but continued on as the company's top heels, now joined by Davey Boy Smith. The original Camp Cornette remained quite prominent throughout these months, and Owen gained more notoriety that November when he caused Shawn Michaels to pass out after a wicked enziguri kick during an episode of Raw. The angle was presented as a worked shoot, with Owen initially feigning out of character concern, but later taking glee in almost running Michaels out of the WWE. Though his association with Jim Cornette's stable kept him visible, and despite winning a slammy for nearly maiming Shawn, Owen, trophy forever in hand, seemed mostly directionless throughout 1996, trapped in mid-card pay-per-view outings while playing second fiddle to teammates Smith and Vader. He would unearth more gold that September when he and the British Bulldogs defeated those familiar Smoking Guns to win each man's second tag team title in the company, kicking off a reign that lasted for 8 months. When Camp Cornette dissolved, Owen and Bulldog 2 nearly crumbled, with Owen's enviousness rearing its head. Bulldog narrowly defeated Owen in an excellent tournament final to become the first European champion in early 97, one of the greatest matches in Raw history. But as tensions mounted, it was Bret to the rescue. The Hitman's disillusionment with America led to him mending fences with his brother and brother-in-law, spurring the birth of a new Hart Foundation. Together with Brian Pillman and Jim Neidhart, the group drew battle lines against WWE's resident Americans, with Owen taking a sizable role. In April 97, he defeated Rocky Maivia to become the IC champion, his first singles title in WWE. And in Calgary that July, the 5 Foundation members won an emotional match over Steve Austin, Ken Shamrock, Goldust, and the Legion of Doom at Canadian Stampede, after Owen scored the winning pinfall on Stone Cold. The feud with Austin continued into SummerSlam, where catastrophe struck in the blink of an eye. As Owen countered out of a gut-wrench lift, he span Austin up for a tombstone, dropping him with the sit-down version of the move. Austin was held too low on the hold and sustained a badly injured neck and temporary paralysis on the landing. Owen essentially had to roll himself up for the pinfall in an improvised finish, with Austin's career now in serious jeopardy. The incident was worked into the storyline, with Hart, who ended up winning the vacant IC title back in October, wearing Owen 316 shirts to celebrate his deed. But Austin gained revenge at Survivor Series 97 in a very brief match, regaining the IC title from the man who'd injured him. After Montreal, with Owen as the last remaining Hart in WWE, and Vince McMahon reportedly refused to release him out of spite towards Bret, Owen turned face in order to feud with Shawn Michaels and Triple H, a rivalry that really blended fiction with reality. Dubbing himself the Black Heart, Owen held the European title briefly in early 98 before dropping it to Triple H prior to WrestleMania 14. And what followed was a pretty random heel turn, as Owen double-crossed Ken Shamrock and joined The Nation, now led by The Rock. Throughout the summer of 98, Hart dually battled with Shamrock in dungeon matches and Lions Den bouts, while also aiding The Nation in its turf war with D-Generation X. Owen revisited the whole neck-breaking aspect of his character when he took out Dan Severn in a less-remembered work shoot. In a bit of character limbo, Hart migrated into the company of Jeff Jarrett, who was managed at the time by Deborah. The two won the tag titles from Shamrock and the Big Boss Man in January 99, around the time that Owen began making appearances in the Blazer getup, while denying that he was the same man in the costume. Hart and Jarrett would alternate the use of the costume to their advantage in attacks on other wrestlers. The two dropped the belts to Kane and X-Pac after WrestleMania 15, after which Owen continued to assume the Blazer persona, extolling heroic values in a time when Attitude Era crowds were actually probably going to boo that sort of thing. And then on May 23rd, 1999, before a packed house in Kansas City's Kemper Arena at the Over the Edge pay-per-view, Owen, as the Blue Blazer, was scheduled to defeat the Godfather to win his third IC title. Prior to the match, he was set to make his entrance from a suspension cable, a little bit like a superhero flying in from the sky. That is when tragedy struck. The release mechanism for Owen's harness was triggered prematurely, and over 16,000 fans watched as Owen fell 78 feet to his death, hitting the top rope chest first before crumpling to the canvas. The show went on after Owen was rushed to the hospital, and a sullen Jim Ross later gave the unfortunate news to the TV audience. And so here we are, 20 years after the fact, with so many aspects of Owen's life and death indelible in our minds. His tragic death and the manner of it have not been forgotten, but the life he lived and the career he forged most certainly deserve the same sort of inextinguishable preservation. Owen was the artful technician, the psychologically sound ring general, the graceful athlete, and the colourful villain, all mastered roles roles that left a lasting impression on wrestling audiences. His was a composed genius that defined itself whenever you saw him perform. Owen Hart's story and life's work deserve immortalizing in some capacity, but for those who witness his brilliance, that privilege immortalizes him in our minds and our hearts forever. Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments section down below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do, then please do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic, where you can pledge. And don't forget, of course, most importantly of all, to hit subscribe and to join us.